Okay, hello again, everyone. This is the second part of completing the square. I just uploaded the first part and realized, hey, that was almost 32 minutes. I believe that is a record. Excuse me. In any event, I'm going to continue with completing the square. Just a couple more problems, and then we'll be done. So I left off with how do you complete the square when the a term does not equal 1? Okay, in all the problems I have presented, the a term, the coefficient was 1. For example, x squared minus 9x equals 2. The a term, the coefficient was 1. 1x x squared plus 6x equals 15. Again, the coefficient for the x squared term was 1, or quadratic term. X squared minus 12x equals negative 20. Again, the coefficient for the quadratic term was 1. So we'll look at what do you do when the coefficient is not 1. Just like we had to figure out what do you do to factor when the coefficient is not 1, we have to do the same thing for complete the square. So here we go. When a does not equal 1, the factor out coefficient of x squared term, divide equation by coefficient, and complete the square in the quadratic term in linear terms. So let's just take a look here. So here I have 4x squared minus 20x equals 15. So I'm going to factor out 4. So 4 goes outside the parentheses. Check. 4 times x squared is 4x squared, and 4 times negative 5x is negative 20x. So I factored out the 4. And then I divided both sides by 4. So now I have x squared minus 5x equals 15 divided by 4. So now I'll complete the square on the x squared minus 5x. So again, always helps. I mean, not that you have to, but if it helps you to draw completing the square, do so. So here I have just x and x. That gives me my x squared. And then I'll take negative 5 and divide it by 2. But again, no decimals. We have to take that b term. Remember, we have to take that b term, negative 5, and divide it by 2. So negative 5 divided by 2. So this would be negative 5 halves x and negative 5 halves x. And so that will give me what I started with there, x squared minus 5x. And then when we complete the square, negative 5 times negative 5, we have 25 fourths. Notice that this term here, when we complete the square, that's always positive. Okay, so I have a perfect square trinomial whose sides are x minus 5 halves. And then that's the area of the square, x minus 5 halves square. So then what I do, so remember we started here, and then I completed the term. Completed the square, I'm sorry. So I need to add 25 fourths to both sides, and that's what I'm doing there. So equals, we had 15 fourths, and then I have to add 25 fourths. So again, we started here, remember? We started right there. We completed the square, and then we have to add 25 fourths to both terms. So, students always ask, so when they see this, oh, well, where did I see you adding 25 fourths to the right side, but I don't see adding 25 fourths to the left side. Well, we did, but it's part of the factor there. See, it's part of the factor. Students always ask that question, well, where's the 25 fourths? Well, it's there, it's in there. All right, and so then what I have then, so I have x minus 5 halves squared equals 15, and 25 is 40 fourths. Well, that's just equal 10. So here, now I'm here. And so I take the square root of both sides, and that gives me x minus 5 halves equals plus or minus root 10. And then I add 5 halves to both sides, plus or minus root 10. Okay, and that's my answer. So that's my answer. And like I was saying, so I have two x's. I have x is equal to 5 halves. plus root 10, and x is equal to 5/2 minus root 10. Okay, so those are my two answers right there. My zeros, if you will, my roots. We couldn't factor this, so we completed the square. Now, you use Desmos before to check your zeros or your roots. You can still use Desmos, but you'd have to write. What you started with, and as a function. So if I add or subtract 15 from both sides, I would get 4x squared minus 20x minus 15. So that would be my y equal. And then I'll show you how we can use Desmos to actually check the work. How we can actually verify these values here, which is always good to do when you're doing your homework. When you do your homework, you should always check to make sure you're getting things right. That's the only way you can do well. It's like learning how to golf. Okay, you want to learn how to swing the club right in the beginning, because if you learn wrong, then your swing is all wrong. It's terrible. So you always, as you're learning this, you always want to check to make sure that you're doing it right. So anyway, I'm just going to go out to Desmos here, and that was 4x squared minus 20x minus 15. So 4x squared minus 20x oops, I think that was minus 15. Yep, minus 15. All right, so here, negative 0.662 was 1, 0, and then 5.662. So negative 0.662 and 5.662. So I tell you what, okay. So I'll use my calculator. So what is 5/2 plus root 10? So I'm going to go here. So 5 divided by 2 plus root 10, square root of 10. Yeah, 5.622 if I go back to Desmos. There it is, 5.662. And then what was my other 0? 5/2 minus root 10. So if I go 5 divided by 2 minus, I have to go second x squared minus root 10. And negative 0.6622. So there it is. All right, see, it works. But we never would have been able to factor that. Okay, in fact, anytime you get, if you guys remember, we had real numbers, and in real numbers is rational and irrational. Whenever you get an irrational answer as your zeros, that means you can't factor. You just can't factor, so you have to complete the square. All right, and then one more here, the last one, 4x squared plus 16x equals 32. So note again, I factor out the 4. That leaves x squared plus 4x equals 32. Then I divide by 4, I get 8. And now we just want to complete the square on that there. So again, oops, we want to complete the square. And I show students completing a square like this, doing visually, and boy, I bet you I see students do this all the time. I mean, it kind of really helps here. So we take that forward, we divide it by 2, and that gives me 2. And so 2 and 2. Now we'll complete the square. And 2x, and there's my x squared plus 4x. There's my x squared plus 4x. That's what I started with. But when I complete the square, I'll be adding 4. Okay, so x plus 2, that's x plus 2 squared. Okay, equals, and what did we have on there? So, and now we have to add 4 to the other side. Okay, so then that's what we get. We get x plus 2 squared is equal to 12. Now, we just take the square root of both sides. And that gives us x plus 2 equals plus or minus root 12, which is equal to plus or minus root 4 times root 3, which equals plus or minus 2 root 3. So I have x plus 2 equals that, and then x equals negative 2 plus or minus 2 root 3. And again, if you wanted to check, so what are my two answers? Negative 2 plus 2 root 3. So x is equal to that, and then x is equal to negative 2 minus 2 root 3. So again, I'll just check and verify. What did we start it with? We started with 4x squared plus 16x equals 32. So we started with 4x squared plus 16x equals 32. I'll subtract 32 from both sides. 4x squared plus 16x minus 32. And we want to find the zeros. Okay, we want to find when y is equal to 0. All right, so I'll just plug that 4x squared plus 16x minus 32. So 4x squared plus 16x minus 32. Let me just make sure I got the right one. Yep. All right, so negative 5.64, negative 5.464, negative 5.464, and then 1.464. So let's just verify that with our calculator. So what were my zeros? They were those two. So negative 2 plus 2 root 2. Negative 2 plus 2 root 2. So let me clear that out. Oh, this is the negative key down here, and this is always the minus key. The negative key is down there, and that's the minus key there. So if you've never used a calculator, so negative 2 plus or minus 2 root 2. So negative 2 plus 2 second root 3. Okay, let me just verify. Plus 2 root 3. Yep, negative 2 plus 2 root 3. Let me go back. 1.464. 1.464. Yep, and so that works out. And then the other one was negative 2 minus 2 root 3. So negative 2 minus. Notice the negative and the minus key are different. 2 root. May as well get some use out of that calculator. And negative 5.464. So if I go back here, what's that? Yeah, negative 5.464. Come on, I want to go here. Yep, negative. So it checks out. So I did my work right. Anyway, so that's completing the square. I know it's kind of a long lesson, but probably the most important lesson we have in this chapter, because you can't always factor. We'll find another method, and you guys may remember quadratic formula, but completing the square. Actually, I find completing the square much easier than using quadratic. And anyway, that is it. So check Schoology for your assignment for today.